Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the ARPneuro Show. My name is Jake. I am your ARPneuro trainer, and once again with us, we have the infamous and always funny, the Maverick, the one and only Matt Dell. Good to see you again, Matt Dell. Thanks for being here.
I'm excited. We have a great guest tonight, hence the name. The Fresh Prince was the only rapper in the Philadelphia area that I even knew. So he is number 8 on the list, hence the French Prince. So we're excited to get in with our guest speaker. And before we do that, I think I'd like to just give kind of everybody a little overview on who we are, ARPneuro. If you're new to us, we'd love to just give you a quick overview of ARPneuro and before Jake talks a little bit about, a one protocol, and then we're going to jump right in and talk to our special guest speaker today, and we'll get her started here.
All right.
Awesome. So just to kind of give you guys a background, we're ARPneuro. We've been in business for about 3 years, and ARPneuro, the technology, has been around for over 20 years. It's got a huge success rate with professional athletes around all the major sports. As a matter of fact, the manufacturer of the company that we're the largest distributor of, they have been supporting and basically working directly with a lot of the NFL teams, NBA teams, Major League Baseball. And so how ARPneuro came about was my old business partner, a gentleman by the name of Chip Turner, had a wrist injury, went to every specialist, couldn't get it fixed, a very avid golfer. Eventually, the president of NBC suggested, hey, you should go check out this ARPneuro treatment in a clinic in Chicago. He did, fixed him after, the pain went away after about 4 sessions. He was completely able to golf after about 7. Couldn't believe it and said to the doctor, why is this not everywhere? And that's when he set up distribution for this, really in an effort to try to bring this not only to professional athletes, but to collegiate athletes, and more importantly, weekend warriors like myself. So, and many of the probably viewers that we have on today. So you can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we've got a great guest, one of which is from a trainer that's been working with the NFL, but there are so many professional athletes that have utilized this technology. Our goal is really to educate the general public and weekend warriors so they can take advantage of, getting back in the game, whether it's pickle, even walking. There's so many different scenarios where, people are utilizing this to help, whatever facet of their life they need help and support with an injury. You can go to the next slide. My personal experience, this is, my son, he was a senior in high school. It was about the 4th game of his high school football season. He broke his tibia fibula. You can see the x-ray there on the screen. They put a rod between his knee and his ankle, and he was an avid basketball player. My old business partner suggested, hey, you should have him do this ARP treatment and he'll come back and play basketball his senior year. And I said, absolutely not. There's no way that could do it. But, he was game for it. And we did. We were driving an hour to and from, did the 20 treatments. And that's actually him playing the last 5 games of the season, including in the playoffs. Little intense to watch as a parent, but, he did it. And it was amazing to see how this technology worked to help combat the fact that, he was not allowed to put any pressure on his leg for multiple weeks. So this allowed the muscle to not atrophy, and it was impressive to see. So that's my personal experience with the technology. You can go to the next slide. On a bigger scale, Logan University just opened up a clinic in St. Louis. They've actually made the ARPneuro technology part of their curriculum to teach all of their future doctors. And so you're going to start hearing a lot more of the technology on a day-to-day basis once those students starts graduating and, opening up their own practices across the country. You can go to the next slide. So currently we have 2 different technologies, 2 different products, one of which is the RX100. It's a class 2 medical device. And there's currently, I think we have, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, we're adding on a daily basis, but about 80 clinics across the country On our website, you can actually go and try to find a clinic close to where you are. And then we have the PRS, which is an over-the-counter device that we've had great success. Same technology. Basically, really the difference is the RX contracts at about 500 contractions per second, and the PRS is at 245 contractions per second. I've got a slide that compares that to what most people are familiar with, which is a TENS unit, but it's extremely powerful. It's neurological. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we have so much technical science on our website, but I wanted to kind of educate those that have not heard of ARPneuro before today. You can go to the next slide. So this technology treats a ton of different conditions. I'm not going to go into great detail, but if there's anything in there that you know of, or have some friend, family that is and you'd like additional information, feel free to reach out to info@arpneuro.com. We'd love to give you some information around what clinic across the country may treat that, or how the PRS could help some of these common conditions. You can go to the next slide. So I like to keep this and give you a comparison of a TENS unit. I think a lot of people are familiar with the TENS unit, but really there is no comparison. The ARPneuro technology is a direct current versus an alternating current, and the contractions are pretty substantial on how it contracts the muscle to stimulate that and re-educate the muscles and the pathway to alleviate pain. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we have so much of that scientific data on our website. Jake, you can go to the next slide. I think the important thing, no matter what it's all about the outcomes. And so what we've done, if you've had a chance to go to our site, we've got athletes, professional athletes that everybody knows. We're putting a library together of professional athletes that have come back from injury or are utilizing it for performance gains. But more importantly, we started putting together testimonials of weekend warriors, and whether it's ankle, back, hip. So if you've utilized the ARPneuro, we'd love to hear your story so we can add it to our growing library. You can go to the next slide.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, I think I know we can get a lot of requests. We're trying to treat these Q&As as a training session. So we've had a lot of requests for what Jake is about to discuss tonight. And before we jump in with our special guest, Gabe. So go ahead, Jake.
All right. Fantastic, Matt. I appreciate it. Very quickly, I want to go over something like Matt said, is we've been getting a lot of questions regarding this. Probably a rumor because they've heard that it can potentially be done. So I'm going to explain the setup, and essentially it is just transferring current from your body to your partner. And I'll explain the benefits of that and in the past as to why it was used. Again, before I continue on in this, just remember, as Matt said, if you have any questions regarding this or any other modalities you don't see, or even on the website in the library, just send us an email at info@arpneuro.com. If you don't see it on there now, eventually you will see it. However, if you have a question and it's not there, there's a good chance somebody else has had that question as well. So please don't hesitate to bring it out there. If it's on there, we'll just direct you to that particular video. If not, we'll make one for you.
Yeah, and let me also interject here. If you have a question tonight on anything that we're talking about, this is an open forum. Please start typing away on your Zoom for questions throughout today's discussion. So
100%. Thanks, Matt. All right. So this one, again, we're going to be using the PRS here. And with this one, it's just the 2 lead system. So you just need the black and the red. Essentially, there's a couple of placements you can do. I'll show you the one that I personally like. It's basically just putting the red lead on your forearm, just like this. And that will basically just stay here. And then the black lead goes on your partner's forearm. And I'll explain the purpose of that. So once you place this on their forearm, and let me pause for a second and tell you the situation that originally kind of caused me to use this quite a bit. And it was with a couple where the wife had been dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of inflammation, swelling in the hands, the knuckles. And you can certainly just use the PRS for that. But sometimes the human touch and transfer is just as important, and then being able to get some sort of electrical transfer with that. What you're able to do with this is, as you place this black pad on their wrist or forearm, then you can literally place your hand on the knuckle, usually where the inflammation is at, and you can either massage. If you're a chiropractor, you can use it to adjust. When you turn this on, you basically just turn this device up to both of your tolerances. And it's just a matter of keeping pressure on that inflammation area and then just pulling out whatever inflammation that's there. It doesn't have to just be on the hand. We do have massage therapists that have used it specifically for that point. And if you are a massage therapist, the shelf life, unfortunately, for being a massage therapist, and this is unfortunate because you give so much, you're basically burning your candle at both ends. And the shelf life is quick because you are giving so much pressure, and there often tends to be a lot of pain in your wrist, your hands, your fingers. This will help subside with that. So you literally can place this pad on you and then your client, and be able to actually go through the massage using the current. I actually watched a massage therapist as she was actually doing some of her palpations, but a lot lighter than she would have had to do without this device. So if you're a massage therapist, it's going to save a tremendous amount on your hands and your wrists. So I know a lot of times I'll talk about athletes using this to save in their career, whether it's their knees or their ankles. The same is true when you're doing it in any other profession where your hands are required, or your feet are required, or standing is required. It's essential that you have this in your tool bag, in your kit, so to speak. And again, the beauty of this is being able to transfer and also help out your loved one. If you have somebody at home that you know for a fact that probably won't use it by themselves, it makes a difference when you're able to actually get involved with them. And it's actually fun, but at the same time, they're getting a couple of good results. You're giving them somewhat of a massage, but you're also getting those contractions of 245 times per second, but also getting blood flow into that area and relieving inflammation. I know it's a very simple one. It's one of the reasons why I didn't use a slideshow with that, but very effective. If you have any questions with this, eventually there'll be a video up here on how to do it. I just have to find someone to do it with to make sure the video kind of works and makes sense. But it does have a lot of good response with it, but there's a lot of good reason to actually do it on a daily basis, especially if there's someone in your family who is, whether it's arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, ankle sprains, hand sprain, even finger issues. This does a great job in this electrical transfer, so to speak. The idea behind it is why does it work so well? Because of that direct current. It's one of the reasons I have the red pad on the forearm. The black runs to the red, but then you're transferring it right back to them from your body as it's coming from you back to them. And so wherever you're actually placing it, a lot of times where they feel that contraction, you're not going to feel anything. But it's able to actually pull out that cellular disruption, we call it, or hot spots, where there's some of those breakdown points. So that's essentially going to be your current transfer. Kind of quick, like I said, but a very easy and basic setup. If you have any questions on that, you feel free, like Matt said, you can leave that in the messages below. But without further ado, we'll kind of move on to that next point. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. Give me a second here as I go through this. All right. Matt, can you see that? Just want to
Yep.
Okay.
Can see it. Thank you.
You can see it, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So many people might know him, but I'm going to give him an introduction nevertheless. He's a highly regarded trainer who has made a significant impact in the world of professional sports, particularly in the NFL. Now, with an impressive client roster that includes renowned athletes like Jalen Hurts and Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles, he has demonstrated his expertise and effectiveness in optimizing performance and ensuring the well-being of his players. He has incorporated ARPneuro Therapy into training regimens to accelerate recovery and enhance the training and conditioning of his clients. His contributions extend beyond physical fitness. As a Marine veteran who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan, he brings a unique perspective and skill set to his training approach. Applying the discipline and principles he learned in the military, he has harnessed his experiences to train some of the best athletes in the world. His dedication and passion for helping others reach their full potential make him a highly sought-after trainer and a true inspiration in the sports industry. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to the trainer of the Philadelphia Eagles, Mr. Gabe Rangel. So I really appreciate, Matt, you're about to say.
Yeah, before we even introduce Gabe, being from Philadelphia, you can pop on, Gabe, but we put together a little video. You might recognize the voice. He's somewhat famous in the Philadelphia area, but go ahead, Jake, if you could fire that up, that would be great.
You got it. I'm gonna shut my camera off here.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm gonna show you how great I am. The kingdom of God is within man, not one man, a group of men, but in all men, in you, people have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness, you, the people, to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Now, what are you gonna do? Because limits, like fears, are often just an illusion.
Let's run through some walls. Let's do it.
You gotta love the most famous Philadelphian, Rocky Balboa. We wanted to get you a little pumped up before we kind of drill you with some questions, but welcome
ready.
for sure. So I would love to start because I don't know a whole lot about you. Jake did a great job doing the background, but please just spend some time giving your story and your background. Would love to hear about you.
Definitely. Yeah. Jake did a great job. I born and raised in the Bay Area. And I ended up joining the Marine Corps. I did 2 tours overseas. And when I got out, I ended up pursuing a undergrad degree from Cal State Fullerton in kinesiology. And then I ended up getting it's part of my internship. I went out to Tulsa University and ended up turning into a grad assistantship for Tulsa University, and ended up doing strength and conditioning there as working with football, basketball, and crew, actually women's crew, and ended up going from there back out to California. My high school football coach actually was a strength and conditioning coach at LSU. Then he came out and was the head combine trainer for, at the time, Athletes Performance, which is now Exos. And we ended up doing NFL combine training, and that really got my wheels wet after transferring from Tulsa back over there. Opened a gym with Brian Urlacher and Jay Glazer out in Los Angeles, and really got in deep with the NFL world and just the professional athlete world in general. Moved around, actually did some celebrity stuff. I was full-time with Adam Levine for 3 years, went on tour with Maroon 5 and that whole gig, which was funny because I ended up going to the Super Bowl when it was Rams Patriots when Maroon 5 did halftime show. And then this past year, I got to go back again for work with the Eagles, even though it wasn't as fun this year losing. But yeah, so I did that. But in intertwined within that, I got my massage therapy license because the military was paying for my school. So I was like, hey, might as well get some more knowledge. And then even more current, I'm pursuing a doctorate in acupuncture. I'm in my 3rd and final year right now. So I'm putting all of them together and yeah, training guys. I moved out here after Adam to Philadelphia with Lane. Lane needed somebody full time, and he's like, man, Brady has his guy, like I need my guy. And, you know, he kind of convinced me to move from beautiful 75 Los Angeles to the beautiful cities of Philadelphia. He said, just come here. It's gorgeous here.
Yeah. For those that are on, you know, can you, they may not know who Lane is. Could you just, you know, just give a little background on how you met Lane and who he is?
Yeah, so Lane Johnson's a right tackle, he's an offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles. He came out when I had my gym with Brian Urlacher and Jay Glazer. Jay was very close with Chip Kelly, and when Chip Kelly was a coach here, he brought out Chip. I will say, Chip gets a lot of heck here in Philly, and I'll tell you what, that guy, he had a passion for the sport, and everywhere, every single place that one of his guys worked out in the offseason, Chip went and personally visited, and he wanted to learn about philosophies. Like a lot of our guys were doing prolo therapy here in Cherry Hill, and Chip went to the doctor and is like, teach me about prolo. It had nothing to do with football directly. It was like degrees of separation, but he was a great coach. And he introduced Lane out to our facility, and I ended up training Lane right after his rookie year, 2012. And Lane and I kept in touch, and he had a couple bad seasons where he wasn't too happy with the training. And he's like, I need you full time. Like, I really like your training. So he moved me out here and ended up starting a gym out of his backyard. And it was just Lane and I to start. And now we have about 30 guys there. And I mean, dang near every team represented, but we have a huge bulk of the Philadelphia Eagles, and definitely including Jalen Hurts. So we've kind of built something really cool there. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's
awesome. So I got to ask you, when and how did you discover ARP, and when did you start utilizing that technology?
Lane. So Lane ended up, there was a guy, Bryce, who kind of, he took this technology and he's at a hospital in Arkansas, and he uses it on a lot of severely immune compromised cancer, neurological patients. And he was having a ton of success on it. And Stefan Wisniewski actually was another one of our guys. He kind of brought it to Lane, and then Lane got a hold of it, and they were talking just like, man, it's life-changing stuff. When you're in the strength and conditioning community, you hear about stuff all the time. Like, oh, let's use this, let's use that. I'm like, hey man, whatever you want to use, I'll facilitate. But Lane, like, he would not stop talking about this. And it really happened our first year. He actually strained his popliteus, and I'm just doing traditional rehab on him. And he's like, I need to get the ARP. Like, I need to get it here now. And I was like, what the heck is this ARP thing? It's just a stim unit. I'll get my Mark Pro or something. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I need my ARP. And I was like, all right, like whatever. So we get the ARP out, and I mean, he was practicing in like 2 days, and we had been doing other type of modalities for, let's say, like 5-6 days. And we had a game coming up, and I mean, he was playing that Sunday, but we started on a Tuesday and he was practicing Friday. And I was like, and I try to stay very like even keel, like, all right, what is this thing doing? Like, all right, what, you know? And then he was just like, hey man, I could tell you all that stuff, but this is what I tell all my guys now that we use them. Like, hey, just try it. I could tell you all stuff till I'm blue in the face, but throw those pads on and let's take you through some movements. And I promise you, you'll know that if you've been through this, in this world and you've been through PT, once you try this, you're like, wow, this is different. Yeah, so that's how I got introduced.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because even the vice president of innovation and technology at Logan, they had a whole committee deep dive into the technical aspects of this. And, you know, at the end of that whole due diligence period, the one thing he said, which has kind of become our slogan, I don't know how it works. We're diving in to figure that out, but it's all about the outcomes. And you cannot argue with the outcomes because it's so successful, whether you're, you know, whether you're treating an NFL lineman or a senior in high school. I've seen it firsthand. I've got a torn labrum, and the PRS is fantastic for that. I'm able to play pickle and tennis again as a weekend warrior. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't argue with the outcomes.
Yeah.
So were the Eagles? Because I know I just left. I just left the Cubs trainers, and they love it. They use it. You know, one of the guys came over from the Dodgers, and I still feel like, and I'd love to get your impression, but it still seems to be the best kept secret in, you know, training and, you know, and the modality. I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys, especially being in this field, and I don't know if everybody else, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people within the, you know, the healthcare system, and especially in the strength and conditioning world and sports performance world, people are, they're very stuck in their ways when they get to the top, and, you know, they're very scared to use new kind of technology until it's kind of sound. And I think people are just scared to try new things. And we bring it in, and like, you'll just get kind of like the cold shoulder, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to deal with it. But I think that's a big thing, unless somebody has a previous experience with it and or just puts the machine on themselves. Like, you meet a lot of resistance in pro sports because a lot of people are also scared. People don't realize in pro sports is sometimes the best treatment is not available because they're worried about somebody getting injured. Right. And even if it's not the case, if somebody says dry needling is great and they get dry needled and they feel worse, it probably has nothing to do with the dry needling. I mean, it could, but it's probably not. And then they feel worse. Now all of a sudden you're on the hook for whatever within the organization. Your job could be at jeopardy. So I think that's one piece that I think it meets some resistance. That's just from my personal experience, that I know with some of the staffs are like, what is this? And, or you also have the other side of like, who do they have deals with? You know, like we're at the NovaCare, where NovaCare Rehabilitation is our title sponsor at our practice facility. So I don't know if that has stuff to do with it too. Like, is there deals? Like, I mean, the professional sports is just so money driven. You never know, honestly. But like I said, any soft tissue specialist, any physical therapist, anybody that we've talked to, that's like it happened to me. I'm like, hey, why don't you just put the thing on and let's rock. I'm like, I promise you, it's not the same. And then they're like, oh wow.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it because we have the same issue with, you know, because it's a game changer, but you still have that reluctance because it's like, okay, what is this thing? How does it work? We now just launched a rental program so that the over-the-counter PRS, if let's say somebody's coming post-surgery or doesn't want to get surgery, they now can rent the device for 90 days and have access to try it. And that's the over-the-counter PRS. Have you started utilizing that with any of your players?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like we use it all the time, and I'm telling you, I think all my guys are going to get it. And you know what's funny? I was just talking to my a physical therapist I work with in house, and you know, in the biggest use case I'm going to see it as, I always get texts the night before games or the morning before games. Like, Gabe, my hamstring's tight. Gabe, like I'm doing a 90-90 and I have closing in pain on my internal rotation. Like, what do I do? I can't be there. I have no way to transport to, you know, with the Eagles, I'm there. I go to all our away games and I can actually put my hands on the guy and figure something out. But from my other guys on the Packers or the Saints or the Steelers, I can't be there. So it's so easy that the use case, when you teach them, I'm like, they know their major muscles, and like, you can get super specific with the unit, but you could just be like, hey, let's go above and below what's hurting and let's add some movement, you know, and we're going to create that blood flow specifically to where we want it at whatever joint, you know. I'm like, hey, if it's the hip, let's go glute med, let's go hip flexor front back, or let's go glute med and let's go hamstring, and let's start getting some marches in. It's just so easy. And my guys, once they understand that concept, I don't even have to interject that, because then they understand, like, all right, let's go above and below what's hurting and let's add movement in all the different planes and let's see if it improves the problem. If it doesn't, hey, maybe you need a finger in there, but I promise you most of the time it will. And they're finding that. So when we roll out or we warm up, we do a lot of body tempering. It's like this heavy roller we go on the guys. Mm-hmm. The ARP is, the neuro's right next to it, and they're like, they'll grab it and then just be like, hey, my shoulder's a little wonky from yesterday's workout, or I did some field work or, contact today. So my biggest use case is going to be my guys that are not with me every moment, like not the Lane and Jalen's, that if they had something at practice, even if they nicked their finger, I think another piece of pro sports a lot of people don't know is like, sometimes you don't want the team to know everything.
Right. Right.
If you are constantly like, my finger hurts, my toe hurts, that gets reported up to the top. They're like, this guy's always hurt. Like, I don't want to give him another contract. And guys know that. So there's a whole other piece of like, I mean, there's guys I had in the conference championship. I think the number one thing, and I'm sure we'll get into way more, but the number one thing we use it for, we have the RX unit, is the foot baths. And I've done a foot bath now with the neuro unit. I did my first one actually, which is great. But I mean, if you have an ankle sprain, like these guys are coming back in a couple of days. And they're not severe. They're not like graded 2, and like, we're not having, crazy amount of like tendon damage, but these ankle sprains are still, I mean, because these guys are spatting, they have so much tape on, it's not a ton of like eversion, but you still have a lot of displacement, and these foot baths are bringing these guys back so quick. So I'd say that's our number one use case. But yeah, like the other thing for these guys to have it is just like, I don't have to go to my PT about every little thing. I can kind of self-medicate, if you would.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I don't know about the NFL, but for Major League Baseball, they've actually implemented the PRS as part of a workers' comp, and Major League Baseball now is paying for the PRS for any workers' comp for them. So now the PRS is, because you can travel with it, it's easy, you can use it. And then I'd love to get your take on the blood flow feature of it, because, the main pulse suspend is absolutely a game changer, especially the night before a game or whatever. How have you been taking advantage of that feature?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's funny, and it kind of marries up in a kind of good transition as I kind of go down this acupuncture road. And I think always in my mind is like, how am I marrying the West and the East? And like, in Chinese medicine, they believe in qi and in blood flow, right? It's so important to get that blood flow, especially on away games. And again, like, I'll have that use case here in a couple months, but when they go to away games, like, everything's off. Like, it just doesn't feel right. I don't care. These guys are in nice hotels and they're getting everything pampered to them. But like, when you're just not in your own bed, you're not waking up understanding the same things, like you need that blood flow. And where do you get it? Do you just go in the shower? Like, how are we getting that increased blood flow the night before? Wake up. Like, there's different times that we need that to like kind of get your nervous system going, where we're going from that parasympathetic to sympathetic. And I think that's going to be a huge feature that, again, I'll be able to really capitalize in season, because when they're coming to me short term, it depends. In the morning, I definitely have a use case for it, but generally they're coming in pretty hot, and we have a lot of mobility stuff that we got going. But I just think at away games, I think especially for baseball, those guys travel so much, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Oh, they're using it on the planes and the buses. It's interesting. One of our clinics in Cleveland, who treats a lot of NFL guys with the RX and the PRS, his number one patient now is not NFL guys, it's pickleball. He is getting more, weekend warrior pickleball injuries, Achilles, and the foot bath that you mentioned is a game changer, especially with the PRS. So I'd love to get your take on, obviously working directly with all the NFL guys, but I mean, what are your thoughts on just, any of our listeners that are just weekend warrior, pickle guys trying to get back on the court?
I literally I took Lane and John Runyon, he plays for the Packers.
Whoa, time out.
Junior.
I'm a diehard Bear fan. I don't want to hear about anything on the
Oh, you saw that?
Sorry.
You saw that Jordan Love Father's Day post to all the Bears fans? He said
I did not, but
that happy Father's Day to all the Bears fans, because he's saying he's your guys' daddy. But
oh boy, here we go. Well,
that's actually
on the opener, so that we'll see. This is good.
That's a good one, actually.
We went up to Yosemite, beautiful, and Lane actually. And Lane, you could ask across the whole NFL, and it's not just, it's obviously close to home, but you go across the whole NFL and you ask about Lane, and I mean, he is literally a physically freak. Like, he just works his butt off, and he's just one of the guys that kind of sets the bar for what needs to be, especially at linemen. Like, you don't have guys that are 330 pounds with a six pack. And if you're around Lane, like, he's watching TV and he has a kettlebell behind him working on his posture. Like, I'm not saying anything either. Like, I wish I could take credit for it, but it has nothing to do with me. It's Lane just being Lane. He never turns it off. And we went up to Yosemite and he was like, this is one of the most challenging, difficult things I've ever done in my life. Cause we went up one of the main Yosemite fall hikes. It's like 6.2 miles, 4,000 feet of elevation gain. Of course, I go up top, and last day I fall and I sprain my ankle. And I'm just like, this thing is killing me. And I brought my unit, and I didn't bring it up to the top of the mountain, but I had it in the car. So the whole way home, like, I'm driving and Lane's putting the pads on me. He's like, all right, let's go tibialis anterior, and let's go on like your actual plantar fasciitis. And like, I think we're going to get some blood flow to that ankle. Like, but again, it's just like, the guys know it. Like, they know, like, John just got a unit too. And same thing. It's just like, they're loving it because it's so like, the use case of it is just so easy. It's just like, hey, this something doesn't feel right. Instead of like, I don't know what to do, I have to wait on somebody. Like, they can do these things at the house. And like, it's so simple, like, just a ease of first use. I love it. And especially with the website.
Yeah. That website. And that's, if Jake ever started, producing some videos, we'd have more protocols. So it makes it easier to know pad placements, but now I'm just messing with you. Jake's been pretty busy helping the Logan Clinic open, but he'll be, a little more dedicated, because that's the game. And that's why anybody that's listening, or even yourself, Gabe, I thought it was interesting when we first had a conversation, just even, for you who's been around it, just learning the concussion protocol. Yes. Was intriguing to me to know that here you are around the NFL and hadn't utilized it for concussion protocol. Was, again, to me, we need to do a better job of not only educating weekend warriors and but just even guys like yourself that are so close to it, because it's so powerful.
Yeah, we sleep. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I have the old one. No, I don't. I was looking at my protocols. It said sleep with the RX on the background. First sensation. Oh yeah, we did. So we do the sleep with the RX on the background, first sensation with the black on the oblique, and then the red on the gracilis. Like, that was our when Lane had his last concussion. It was a pretty bad one. And I remember because he came out, and a lot of his other concussions, they were like, he knew it was a concussion. He was like, oh, I got it rattled. Like, I'm fine, but it was a concussion. The last one, he like vomited on the sideline, and they called a play, and he's like, a play that he knew. And he was like, I have no idea what they just said.
Oh boy.
And that one Lane has a hyperbaric chamber. So we do a lot of dives with that. It's like, we could be more aggressive during those concussion times, but he slept every single night with that protocol I just said. And he, again, like, he passed all the protocols with flying colors way before the markers that he was supposed to. Like, we had a bye week, and he was like really not supposed to come out till Monday, and he passed all the protocols that Thursday. So he passed Sunday 4 days early.
That's great.
And it was just all hyperbaric, and then the concussion protocol with the RX.
Yeah, what's amazing, just looking at the sales that we're generating. I mean, I bet you close to almost 40% of them are professional athletes that are now just have heard about it and are buying the PRS just so they can travel with it.
I mean, like I said, sometimes you can't get into the facility, or you don't want to say stuff. And this is just an easy way to, like, everybody has it. Like, everyone, like every single one of my athletes almost now has like a little recovery room. Even if they're like in an apartment, they'll like dedicate a corner of the house or the room. Like, they have all their NerveOTX, their massage guns. And like, now this is just going to be another piece of it that actually is so effective. And like I said, it makes my job a lot easier too. So I love it.
Yeah, we have a clinic down, or a clinic that treats a lot of professional athletes in, where is it? I think it was Miami. But anyways, yeah, Miami. They get now some of these orthopedic guys that are doing the surgery, they will not send any of their NBA or professional athletes to rehab if the ARP is not, the ARPneuro is not, being utilized, because obviously they understand it. They know the how much quicker they're going to recover. And more importantly, it's it makes them look good, right? Because that's their game, is to, get you back in the game as quickly as possible. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So, well, cool. Jake, do you have any questions for Gabe? I mean, I could go on. It's such a great experience to have you on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the background one, because that was the one I was going to actually ask you. But on top of like the injury portion, have you ever used it for performance? If they're doing fine, they're healthy, do you put it on as they're going through some of their workouts?
Yeah,
Great
we
question.
haven't. Yeah, we haven't yet, and there's definitely a use case. And I think on the one-on-one situation, for sure, it has a huge use case where I can. And it's harder in the group setting, just because when we're rolling with 5-6 guys at a time, it's harder to kind of dedicate that time. And again, I think you can easily, when someone's like, I need extra work, like if Jalen needs more shoulder work, he's like, hey, I'm trying to do something, like. I always thought of it would be good. And you guys have to tell me, I always thought of it like, you remember like Russian stim? Remember when like the Russians first came out with Russian stim?
Yep.
Like it was like such a higher frequency, and like, it was all the bodybuilders initially, like they used it for aesthetics. Like, hey, let's like try to co-contract as well as moving within a specific range of motion. And I don't know if they thought there was going to be more hypertrophy or whatever initially, but I was like, man, that's a great idea for so many different reasons. Like, and we could probably go through all the physiological things that would help, including the range of motion being the first, right? Like, I remember what are those things? Oh my God, those used to be the best. I was at Exos. What were they? What were the vibration plates?
Oh, power plate.
Power plate. Remember, like we'd always use it, right? And
Yeah.
they had all these crazy things, like why we'd use them. But increasing range of motion was like this such an easy, simple thing where it was like, hey, half of my guys can't squat all the way in the hole because they have terrible ankle mobility. You go on there into a full squat and full depth, like acutely, like you're not going to get long lasting mobility out of it, but you're going to acutely have that extra, dorsiflexion to put yourself in a more advantageous position for that deep squat if you're high barring, or if you're low barring, even getting a little bit more depth on the hips if we're going wide. But same thing with the ARP. I can see that being the same type of thing where it's like, hey, I need a moment where I can gain more range of motion. I need a moment where I need a co-contraction. It might help my overall 1RM, those are definitely things in the back of my mind as we kind of mess with the unit. Cause again, we just got that unit in, and the RX is a lot harder, right? Like you got it. There's so many chords and a lot of stuff. So the ARPneuro kind of gives that opportunity, especially with a clip on, where I can just put it on someone and have that opportunity to still have those physiological adaptations. But yeah, that's where my mind goes initially with the performance thing of, hey, I could put this on if I need a specific thing out of a specific movement.
Yeah, I'd love to introduce you. We have a clinic in Missouri, and I've been there. They have 20 power plates and 20 PRSs, and they're jam-packed hour after hour with, weekend warriors coming in, utilizing the PRS on a power plate. So it's interesting that you put those two together, but
Yeah,
I'd love to introduce you if you ever have time to that clinic, because they're killing it. I mean, and the patients love it because they're seeing the outcomes with that. Jake, I don't know, what are your thoughts? I mean, because that's a pretty powerful combination.
It really is. And when I was first introduced to this by Dr. Sam Battaglia out of Chicago, one of my questions was how similar is this in comparison as far as recruiting muscle fibers to the power plate? Because it's something I knew very well. And, he just kind of said, well, that's more oscillation. This is going to be more like electrical, like stimulation.
Yep.
But I have always liked the combination. There's actually a power plate in the St. Louis, the Logan University clinic that we work at. And I like comparing the two and combining the two personally. I think they're both great technologies, but yeah. Combining them is definitely a different animal for sure.
Listen, can't thank you enough. Appreciate your time. Fantastic opportunity to kind of, learn more about you. And I really personally and deeply want to thank you for your service. Incredible. And, Jake, I don't know if there's anything you want to close with, but really appreciate your time, Gabe.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Gabe, real pleasure meeting you. You're a class act, and it was thanks a lot for taking your time to do this. So hopefully we can have you back on eventually.
Yeah, hopefully I have some more use cases and more stuff to talk about, but I appreciate it.